Morality.
Tonight, we go back to 1923 to figure out what's been happening with the Duttons. Then we go forward in time back out to the final frontier on Deep Space Nine. Then we'll talk some pop culture news. All this coming up right now on The Writer Brothers. And welcome back to a much better place to be than the State of the Union address. I am your host, P.D. York, joined, of course, by the ever-so-lovely Mr. Pollo Zapatos, and the equally as lovely and slightly more hairy Mr. Corione Witch in Residence, and H. Marie. Tonight, yeah, everyone gets the slap at least once, including me. Tonight, of course, we go back to 1923, as I said in the intro, and we're just going to open up a little differently, though. We're going to try to do a little pop culture news every now and then, when we can. So, I made a request, and members of our community reached out, and so we're going to go ahead and discuss the latest and greatest in Netflix news with their password caving. Corione, since this was your idea, why don't you go ahead and start us off? Explain a little bit of the backstory and where it's at now.
Oh.
One of these days I'm going to get this show perfectly right, but it is not this day.
Okay.
Now, let's start over. Welcome, of course, and introductions, skip ahead. All right, so Corione, since this story about Netflix was your idea, why don't you go ahead and give a little backstory and bring us up to speed?
Yeah, sounds good. So, Netflix about...
Keeping up with the tradition of Groundhog Day.
Right. Netflix, about 6 months ago, decided that they were going to crack down on passwords. They decided this because they felt that multiple houses sharing the same Netflix account was somehow wrong. So they thought that this was going to be a great way.
Sharing is stealing.
Yeah, apparently sharing is stealing instead of caring. And what they felt was that they could get more money if they could only convince people that were sharing passwords that because they didn't have enough money to afford it, if they could only get those people to now start paying for the password to get on Netflix, people would go with this. Unfortunately, it resulted in a whole bunch of cancellations of Netflix services. Rumors have it upwards of 25%. Now, while this was all going on, just recently, Wizards of the Coast tried to backpedal out of the open gaming license situation. Unfortunately, it was a corporation that showed its true colors, and those colors were very clearly yellow. So when
that seems to be the standard corporate color is the yellow flag or the white flag.
Or stealing.
Yeah.
Traditional thievery.
Yeah. So, being thieves, they're a superstitious, cowardly lot, as per Batman, right? But what happened was when Wizards of the Coast eventually caved, they did this backpedaling maneuver that had them say, oh, well, this was just us actually testing the waters. We weren't actually going to do this, guys. We've heard the feedback and what have you. Well, Netflix tried to pull the exact same move, saying, oh, no, us cracking down on password sharers was just a test balloon. We weren't really going to do it, guys. Despite people actually, getting subscription warnings and being suspended. We weren't actually going to do this, guys. It's all a joke. It's all fake. Don't worry. And now it's turned out that, they're getting the same response. People are saying, well, if you think that the heartache you caused all of us was a game, maybe you don't need our subscription. So even after trying to call an audible, they are still losing subscriptions.
Yeah, and CC Karaoke writes in with a cat in the chat.
Very nice.
Good to see you. Glad you could make it tonight.
Meow to you as well.
Mm-hmm. So exactly. Yeah, that's the basics, and it's got me wondering, guys. Who do you think is the next corporation to realize that they actually need customers in order to make money?
Well, depending on how season 3 of Picard goes, I'm going to guess it might end up being Paramount, although we thought that went Discovery, yet it somehow ended up leading to, Star Trek Picard, and then Prodigy, and Lower Decks, and now Strange New Worlds. So that's 5 active Star Trek shows. That's the same amount of legacy Star Trek shows that exist. There are now 5 active shows. Oh wait, 6 if you count the animated series. My bad. So I don't know. Maybe it's not as applicable. The other one to that, of course, would probably be Disney. And
it would also be Netflix as well.
Right.
Not even for this first one, but come on, y'all. Let's be honest. Who really needs to learn the lesson? It's the shareholders. Who are the shareholders? Oh, wait, they're corporate because CEO and the board members are the ones that literally own the majority of the shares almost always in any American business. If it's Chinese, the state owns it. But that all being said, the shareholders are the ones supposedly changing these companies and telling us that they know how to run them better, or they need their profits. But why don't the shareholders just start going, no, we're good. We'll take an L. We don't need this extra money to show that you're trustworthy. We need good products to show that you're trustworthy. You've cut operating costs down to nothing, and now you can't operate. Oops. Yeah. I read this in a CEO related email recently, and the CEO said, if you see stock buybacks and stock prices increasing despite the company losing resources and laying off laborers, it's all gonna be okay. Everything, we're trimming the fat, getting the job done, but you're not. What's really going on is you're stealing from Peter your operations costs, your laborers, your actual product developers and sellers, just to pay Paul yourselves because you're the primary shareholders. Like, you're literally stealing from yourself to pay yourself. It's a Ponzi scheme, and you're pretending like it's not because it's legal.
Well,
So yeah, and I mean, I hope one day to get R.M. Briggs on this show to talk about the negative economy, in that they've also created this environment where they make money off of people's negative reactions to stuff. And so it almost alludes to the possibility that certain, people out there putting negativity hardcore one way or the other might be in on the scam. Not that I'm necessarily accusing anybody. It's just, it's part of the way it works. So it's almost like they've got a point where the product doesn't even have to be good, and they're just going to make a buttload of money anyway in a similar fashion as you described, John.
Right,
So,
but that's what I'm saying is that's not working, because
well, we don't know that it
Wizards of the Coast no, we do know, because Wizards of the Coast just tried to drop a product that was the most obvious version of this, and it flopped so hard we literally revolted.
Right.
That's what
There's different, there's different
particulars.
particulars involved, but that's my point, is like the negative reactions economy is probably the reason why there's 5 Star Trek series it's going, is what I was trying to get at.
Yeah,
But-
and for sure, but also, like, it's what's coming out. Like, it's not like Paramount's dropping 10 other bangers alongside a new sci-fi that's a known tried and true. People are going to see if it works, and for them it works for in the background. They watch all 10 episodes, but they don't care about the lore, so they don't know how it disrupts the lore. But that's not because a negative person told them it was bad. I don't think the negative economy worked until recently. I don't think there ever really was. I think it was just standard economy that they called negative because that was the people they were looking to shut down. Like, they were going to the people that hate posted to find out who hates their stuff, and then said everybody who follows this is never going to buy a ticket. But all the people who follow it made their own choice whether or not they bought a ticket for their own reason. And we don't know. And they don't know because they didn't ask. Like, they're just making this market up so they have a new way to pitch to more markets that may or may not exist because nobody's actually asking. When did any of you remember receiving a survey from any publishing group asking why you purchased or did not purchase their product?
well,
Like,
I mean,
they're not asking. They're listening, but they're listening to the wind, and the wind is loud with all these computers.
well, okay, so I get what you're saying, and I think you're right for the initial process. But now I think they're sitting there going, well, the politics of failure have failed. We need to make them work again. So we need to invent controversy in order to keep the hate train flowing.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying is they're buying into a system they made up and now saying they need to make it up and make it work again because they thought it worked the first time. Like, that's what global communication is proving, is like, we all kind of knew we were being lied to. We just literally couldn't do anything about it. We had no options, no competitive choice. Like, we've only ever had what is sold to us, and most of us aren't capable of controlling or even talking to anybody who can control that. We say we do with representative governments, but let's be honest, and that's what I mean is, like, as we've gone on Facebook and stuff, people are like, where did all of these groups come from? And it's like, no, they always existed. There's just now a Facebook to see them all. Like, you didn't go to all the towns to meet all the people to find out all the things about all the people. But on Facebook, you can see coordinated groups. You can Google white supremacist groups, and now you found them because you can Google that. 20 years ago, you couldn't. 30 years ago, you couldn't. 100 years ago, you never could have imagined.
Well, and even Google's manipulating searches now, so people find the
Yeah.
information that they want, that Google wants them to find, not
Because
unbiased,
they made up
available
this
info.
fear economy, and now they're scared of it because they made it up. Like, they literally made their own thing up because they're all talking to each other. They're in their own echo chamber, and they're like, "Oh, guys, echo chambers are scary."
It just
Echo
goes back. It
chambers
just goes
are
back to
scary.
our.
Let's turn
Yeah.
them off
It just goes
by
back.
making a newer, bigger one.
It just goes back to our World War I conspiracy discussion on the Rogue Council. It's the same plays to try and get as much power and money as quickly as possible with so much short-sightedness that you don't even think of the intended consequences. Yet the problem is, with how fast things are moving nowadays, like, we're in a point where it used to be, rich people could consolidate power and money, and they wouldn't be held to account for it because they died, right? Now we're at the point where the people who've tried to do that again are still going to be alive when the retribution comes.
Well,
and that's all I'm going to say on that, because this isn't the Rogue Council.
Point.
This isn't the Rogue... But go ahead and read his point. Read his fan mail.
Karaoke's point, he writes in, the purpose is to distract us from paying attention to what they are doing behind the curtain. And that was the point. But if we look at social media, if we look at the reality, all of us already know. All of us always knew.
Yeah.
We just literally couldn't talk about it. We didn't have instantaneous global communication across the...
Well, not just that, but we have...
spectrum. The poorest person can technically send an email to the richest person if they know that information. That's never been the case before. The king could never talk to the individual without being, presented as the king. The king can do Undercover Boss now. Like, that's a literal TV show, And instead of using that show to actually help their people, they just helped a couple of their employees feel like all of their employees were loved, when in reality they were saving money by spending millions on marketing this BS propaganda project. And Everybody who watched it knew that. SNL made a skit about how obvious it was that the Empire, Kylo Ren, did it. That's how obvious the propaganda is to literally everyone. All of our media, and in fictional media, I should say more, paints the obvious and paints that picture more obvious. The only people that don't think we know this are the people still doing it, which is all of the people at the top. They're the only ones that don't know we know.
So what you're saying is not only is the Emperor not wearing clothes, but he's appearing on OnlyFans.
And he doesn't know he is.
Nice.
Because he put the camera in his room.
Good one, Corion.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, it's not so much that people knew about it, though, because a lot of people don't, because we also have a fear porn, emotionally fabricated society that basically convinces you, oh, you believe XYZ conspiracy, oh, you're just one of them tinfoil hat wearing idiots. And that's why I'm at the point where, yeah, I have a whole fedora made of tinfoil now, so I don't really care.
On the internet, but not at the store. It used to be at the store. It used to be people would take the time to ostracize groups based on their outfits, based on their clothes. Now, I don't know what clothes mean what anymore. It seems like everybody's shopping for their own wardrobe. Well, no, the goths and the jocks and the preppies and the poors. It was obvious who bought what and wore what. Now that doesn't exist anymore. You can get knockoff Gucci and nobody knows it's knockoff, because they don't know what real Gucci looks like, because Idaho doesn't have Gucci, right? And you don't care, because you wouldn't wear that because you didn't look for it, because you want what you want. That didn't used to be the case. Classism used to be so obvious by the clothes. Now classism is only obvious by the media and your social media preference.
Well, I think part of that had to do with the 90s, where everyone was doing grunge and everyone looked like they belonged under a highway overpass and that was chic, and it just kind of didn't go away.
Actually, I would say it's all part of fast fashion. It's one of the benefits of constantly releasing new clothes when nobody can afford to buy more than one outfit a year. Everybody just waits for their one season to buy their fashion, and none of it matches because the next one came out next week.
Which is why we wanted to share our passwords for our social networking and our video and our TV watching, because we can't even afford the Gucci crap.
Yeah, we can't afford any of this. That's the biggest thing. That's the echo chamber that they're really not checking. They're all these people are greedy. They just want me. And it's no, we're all drowning.
We're just trying to survive.
Because of you.
Boy, this is turning into a little State of the Union-y, guys. I thought people were trying to come here to escape.
I know, right? I put that hashtag in there. Now it's our reality. Damn it.
This is the actual union discussing this.
So, yeah, well, that's the true. We're actually talking about real stuff. That's the problem as to why the State of the Union is not the best place to be on Tuesday night. Whereas if the ideas that John just shared were adhered to and we changed the system, we'd probably just be live commentating the State of the Union. But it's a shit show, so we're not. Instead, we're here to provide that distraction, which means it's
No,
time to move to our next pop culture
No,
topic.
If they actually listened, we would be here talking about how awesome the next show that just released is, and we would just be gushing over it because we actually prefer to gush over these shows.
Well, that's
On to
what
our
we
next
got. That's what we're
topic,
doing tonight. All we
and
have
I'm
is
about
gush,
to
unless.
gush over it.
Oh, that's right. H. Marie, I'm sorry. I forgot. You did have a point that you wanted to make on this topic specifically. Before we move on, we'll let you have the last word on it, more or less, or maybe inspire the last discussion.
Thanks. I actually haven't done a whole lot of research into what's going on, but unfortunately, the one few things that I did read was saying that you would have to sign into your Netflix from your home email or your home internet for like every 30 days or something like that.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, so then how is that going to work for people who are snowbirds? People who move somewhere else for 6 months out of the year? Are they going to have to make a second Netflix account for their second home? What, I mean, is that...
That was the intention, yes.
So, okay, yeah, so they are just quite literally money grabbing. But I was wondering, so I was like, that makes no sense. So, because Parker and I are considering snowbirding at some point in our lives. And I was like, if we ever end up getting Netflix, that's never going to work.
Well,
Hold on. Sorry, we got fan mail. Nemesis of Eden writes in, just popping in to say hi quick. Hope all you beautiful people are doing well. Well, Nemesis, thanks for popping in to say hi real quick. I hope you are well as well. So we do appreciate that you're taking your free time to spend just a little bit of it with us, man. It does mean a lot.
So what I was going to say is, not that we're sponsored yet, but, if a VPN decided to sponsor us, this would be the time and place to put that in right then and there. So I'm just saying, Surfshark, and I know you're listening. You could have had money, but you chose not to.
And on top of that, who has 2 email accounts they want to make 2 separate passwords for? Like, come on, Netflix. Nobody wants to have 2 accounts at the same time. That's so annoying.
Yep.
I don't want to memorize the ones I already have. I don't want to have to add an extra just because you guys are cheap.
I got enough.
John, I've got a solution to that. All you have to do is just give me your passwords, and I will make sure that they are well taken care of.
Stop trying to steal my Facebook information, Facebook.
I'm going to put dicks all over that page. Oh, wait, you're already there. So moving on now to our next pop culture discussion. One of our other community members, Rin Shar, I don't know if he's watching or not, made this suggestion about talking about AI voice printing and the effects that could potentially have on society. He wrote in, he said, I guess I could have pulled this up sooner. He said, vocal AI generation would be worthwhile to talk to. We are 5 minutes away from all audio being impossible to trust unless cited back to an event. Last week, new algorithms dropped that have come close to perfect vocal cloning. It overreaches into pop culture because people are able to make various pop culture icons say crazy stuff, and that's the main splash it's having right now. Yeah, deep faking is pretty much the thing right now.
I mean, look, I've used not deep faking for a couple of my videos from, every once in a while because it was hilarious. Putting me on a Sky Marshal to be able to deliver a State of the Open Gaming License war speech was hilarious. But the truth of the matter is, look, there are some cool benefits of this technology. Personally, I would love to see a rap battle between, like, I don't know, Bill Haley from Bill Haley and the Comets and like Chubby Checker. We could have that, right? It could be fun. Right?
Epic rap battles of history is about to be a lot more epic.
Right, like we could have some really fun next level stuff, so long as we're all in on the joke, and that's the key. Well, the minute we're not all in on the joke, that's the problem.
To me, like, that's the beautiful part. Like, growing up regularly not being in on the joke, realizing that the joke doesn't matter. Like if we really think about it, they do start trying to use this to like propagandize. If they're trying to get actors or telling you to do stuff, it's like, okay, so now their voice matters even less. Like I always grew up being told, don't worship false idols, but also don't hold up people you don't already know. Like, don't assume that Johnny Depp's a great guy just because he crushed it in Pirates of the Caribbean, but also don't assume Amber Heard's a great woman just because she crushed it in Aquaman. Like, they're just humans. You don't know them till you're in the room with them. And so with all this deep fake stuff, like even hear me talking to you as an audience, like, don't trust me past what I say on this show. Like, when you meet me in a room, maybe all of it does align to what I said on the show, but wait till you get to that room. And if that room never shows up, look, you never had to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this technology really tells us, is like, don't listen to anybody outside of the room you're in past that room. Like, listen to your shows, enjoy your shows, learn what they teach you. But if it doesn't make sense, or if it sounds like somebody's telling you what to do, walk away, turn it off, press pause, change the channel.
And that's something we never do on the show.
That's how you win without getting anxious like they're actually going to take over the world. Like, they're all just liars, so stop listening to them.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, it's going to be easier to point out the lying with the deepfake. So
yeah,
I don't really have an
the less real it is.
Yeah, I don't really have an actual solution for this, but I did come up with a sort of throwaway concept. Though now I'm realizing that maybe this is something I need to flesh out more. But the idea behind my fictional technology is it's a special authenticator that can go through and scan the digital material and basically determine what's fake and what's not fake. That's kind of the idea behind it. Is like, let's say a CCTV recording, for example, right? So those can be manipulated, especially fairly easy, since a lot of them are basically in like 480p still. I don't know. Some of them are getting to 1080. That's becoming more common. So they're still easy to change, but if there is a way that you could
trying to update the equipment, not that the equipment isn't available in that equipment.
Right. Yeah, I know the explanation. It's just I'm pointing out the fact that because it's older CCTV bullshit, it's a lot easier to manipulate. So what I think would work is if there's some way, maybe blockchain could help keep original files original and use that as a way to like have I don't know, a footprint or something in the video file that'll explains, okay, this is what it originally recorded, and so if there's been any alterations, then an authenticator program could basically go, oh yeah, this is totally bullshit. That's the idea to get there, but I'm
gonna put this out there to you. And
I'm just a sci-fi writer. I come up with ideas. I don't actually come up with how they work.
Right. And I 100% get that. And here's what I want to point out. There is a reason why they call airports security theaters. Okay? Because it is theater. The truth of the matter is, okay.
Never thought to put it exactly like that, but that's fantastic.
Well, thank you. The reason why is because every time you build a smarter way to discern a problem, like you build a better bomb, somebody builds a better shield, so they build an even better bomb. You know, you build a better security system, you know, some moron builds a better terrorist, for lack of a better term, right? There is no security feature you can put in place that a smart man can't figure out his way around. So what winds up happening is, yes, we build an authenticator for today, but then somebody figures out how to spoof the authenticator, so we have to build a better authenticator. I feel like the better solution is to rely more on the human factor and train the audiences to be smarter about what they're seeing. Right?
Which, fortunately, there's a total legal class that anybody can take. It's a writing class. It's called rhetorical analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Find a college that sells it. Almost all of them do. It's an entry-level writing class, great for getting an English credit knocked out of the way if you're trying to get into school at any point and you need to get rid of that credit. Rhetorical analysis is all about studying rhetoric, the audience, the target audience, not just anyone who reads something, but the people that are intended to read something, the author, where they come from as a human. Like, if you read something about LA, you sure hope it's about somebody who grew up in LA or knows enough about LA. But if you find out it's written by somebody who's only ever lived in Michigan, you're like, oh, maybe they don't know anything about LA. And that's rhetorical analysis. And that's how we beat all of these systems. That's how we found out about propaganda. That's why I say so many people do know about it, is because like we are pretty college educated. We're not all college graduates, but almost all of us get that rhetorical analysis class, but it applies even more as a critical life skill now. Like, you don't know who you're talking to, so don't just trust them because they say you should trust them.
I will agree with you on everything but one point, John. I don't think our audience needs to take the class because we do have the smartest fan base on the internet.
I mean, yeah, that was kind of obvious by last week's surprise writer room session with Cameron Pasha and of course, Dictor Van Duke. I still am like, that happened.
Yeah. We'll
see where that goes, but that's a thing. Anyway, don't need to think about that. I have a show to do. So, I mean, the whole point is, you're right, the technology just gets overcome after a while, and so maybe there's ways to train brains to notice, and that's definitely, and you know what, maybe the solution is to do a bit of both. Let's utilize our technology to help protect us, as we always have, but let's also train the human intuition and the human mind to be able to pick up on things that it needs to pick up on. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Do we have anything else on pop culture news we want to touch on or bring up real quick before we?
Well, there is that one little thing that I shared into the Discord earlier from, the latest blunder from Dungeons and Dragons. If you guys want to touch that, because that is an epic level fail.
That, to me, honestly, we should put it on the screen.
Yeah, Corion, if you could cue that up, I'll get it on the screen.
I'll set it up.
Because when it comes to marketing, that, like, dude, watch Mad Men. Like, if you're a CEO, if you're an executive at any business, watch Mad Men so you know how to put a fake public front on. Like, you don't cut your target market in half just because Twitter will hype you up for it. Twitter's fake. Like, we've found out it's mostly bots, and if it's not bots, it's less than 10% of Twitter is 50% of Twitter. So it's 50%, 10%. That means it's nothing. It means nothing. So, like, get your likes, but, like, just like the jackass in school who did that, like, made fun of the cripple kid just because it was funny in the cafeteria. That's what you're doing to your target market, your central source of income.
Yeah, so there it is. Kyle Brink, the possibly dumbest human being ever to exist.
I'm saying it. What a fucking moron.
But, so, hey, guys, he's an executive producer, paid lots of money. He deserves it. He has to be intelligent.
Right, okay. So
yeah, I'm an executive producer. What does that mean?
It means you paid money to be able to get a credit on something. That's
all I've paid so far is my time.
Somebody else's work.
Yeah. So this guy decided to have this was in a news article very recently where they were talking about the fallout from the fact that D&D Beyond has lost over 68% of its subscribers in what can only be described as the most colossal blunder a corporation has ever committed in a public space. Short of, like, something like, the only way it could have been worse is if, like, I don't know, Bob Iger had decided to pull his pants down and urinate on Mickey Mouse in front of the crowds at Disney World. This is about the only way you could have done worse. Right? So what seems to be clear that he is trying to drive away after getting rid of 68% of the audience. He's trying to get rid of the other 32% and just completely crater the brand, because that's the only thing I can think of he was trying to do there.
Yeah, I mean, it's what even, like, this is, I hope this is one of the final straws. Like, it's obvious to me over the last couple of years that woke is on the out. Like, it's very much been on the out and out for a while. The problem is, it takes time for certain trends to go away. And this is the other thing, though, too. We have to recognize that the woke trend is exactly the same as when the Christian right had all the power and influence in the 90s and early 2000s. It's the same thing.
This is the modern day just say no. Right?
That attacked D&D.
Yeah. It's
you guys were literally the central theme in Satanic Panic in the 80s, and now you're doing the thing you hated most.
Exactly. Hype it up. Hype up the issue. Shame people over the issue. Make sure that you ban the issue. You boycott the issue. It's the same stupid bullshit to control thought and ideas. And that's really what it comes down to. And but it's like, and the reason I'm pointing this out is, while I'm glad woke is on the out and out, what's going to replace the control mechanism? What ideology is about to come up that they're going to try and use the same garbage tactics for? Because, guys, the point is not to recognize what exactly the specific ideology is that has the power that's doing this stuff. It's recognizing the ideology's behaviors. And that's what we are calling out, especially on the Writer Brothers. If you're proud to be woke and you have your reasons for being woke, that's your reason to figure out on your own. I'm happy to debate it and tell you why you're being stupid, but I'm also not going to tell you how to think. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what ideology is there, because the wokeists will say, oh, the Christians are just such horrible people, and they can be, absolutely. But there's also a lot of good ones. The wokeists can definitely come off as a lot of horrible people, but I've also met some people who are like that, and to me, they're just misguided. The thing is, it's not so much about whose ideology is in power, but what they are doing when they have that power. And it seems to me that anytime there's some kind of tribalistic ideology that takes over and gets that kind of influence in pop culture, that's the problem. It's maybe the answer is to just decentralize the influence entirely, which is why they want to control the internet.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is build a wheel of contrived controversy, and just every once in a while spin the wheel and see what we get.
Well, yes, absolutely. That's how the media should do it. If controversy is what sells, just make it up and let us know you're doing it. We want to watch that Wheel of Fortune episode. But at the same time, it's really great because this all ties into writing more beautifully than anything else in pop culture. And that's, a lot of people think that Aragorn was going to make a great king now that he was, the true born king of Gondor. But at what point did Aragorn ever discuss economic trade policy with the elves in the future? At what point did he ever discuss intermixing, policing, garbage, aquifer? None of those things were pitched throughout the story, because in stories we gloss over the details. It's not that we ignore them, it's that we skip to the good parts. But in real life, we're that's what these movements are. That's what the Christians are doing. That's what the woke crowd was doing. It's what everybody that's running an organization without organization is doing. This is, if anything, it's expressing the importance of public, transparent policy.
I would also say
what you mean in writing, and then whenever anybody goes, oh, what did you mean by that? You go, well, according to my policy, that's what I meant.
I would
and
also
it works
add this.
Every time.
Yeah, I would also add this. This is another really good way to tell whether something is there for controversy or there for an actual issue that needs to be dealt with. Actual issues that need to be dealt with have an end game. They have a victory condition. They have a point where they say, okay, this has succeeded and now it can stop. Okay? If there is no end game, or if the goalpost continues to move, you know that they are there in pure existence to continue the controversy, because that's their actual game. Right? Is to make money from the controversy and keep it going. If you have an end game, if you have this is our goal, this is what we're trying to do, this is what we're going to get to, then that is a movement that you can probably look at and go, yeah, this is potentially something to get behind. But when they don't have that, if it's very nebulous, there's a problem.
And on the just in general with the big media note, like the old mantra, help me to worry about the things I can change and help me to let the things that I cannot pass. Like none of us, especially like me and the people on this channel or on this panel, none of us are capable of affecting global economic issues. So I'm not going to worry about them. And even if all of the media is telling me the world's on fire, if my world's not on fire, I'll water it if I need to. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll pull out the marshmallows, dude.
yeah, if my world is on fire, like I still can't put that out. It's too much world and I'm just one person. Like a lot of the media, I think, like when people say like controversy sells and all that stuff, I think really what they mean is like, yeah, it's working, but like nobody's buying it. No, like you don't see these giant swaths of people running to California to put out the wildfires. You don't see giant swaths of people running to fix all of the roads in the streets or any of the world's problems. All you see is people standing up to get treated human. And then they're like, oh, you're treating us human? All right, we're out. Like, that's why these groups keep getting smaller. They're like, all right, you're not in our business for no reason. That's all we really wanted in the first place. Leave us alone. Leave us alone. And, oh, you left us alone? Now you don't hear from us. Weird. It's like you didn't want to hear from us and we didn't want to talk to you, but you kept coming to my fucking house.
Yeah, it's that's too. That's really weird, you know. Yeah, how there was like some militia movement going on in the 90s, but then Ruby Ridge and Waco happened, two groups of people that just wanted to live their lives in peace, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, we defeated the militia movement. No, I'm starting to think you created the militia movement and then found two easy targets and then took them. But that's just what I'm assuming.
They just stopped talking about it after that because it turns out killing Americans on American soil.
Oh yeah, dude, we were so close to a civil war after Waco had occurred, but the propaganda machines managed to make the Davidians look crazy enough that people stopped caring. But that's now we are. What are we coming up on, the 26th? No, this will be the 30th anniversary. Yep. 30 years, and more people are aware. And that's why people are, that's why things are trying to keep us distracted. Speaking of distractions, it's now time to move on to our 1923 portion of the show.
Ties into all of this.
Oh.
This is a point that I think is really clever, and I want you guys to tell me what you think. But we've all been talking about how the recent, I'm just going to call it out, Rings of Power tried to just bulldoze diversity into its story, and we've been seeing that throughout the market.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah, bulldozing diversity, just diversity bulldozers coming in. Yeah, that's good.
Well, it's another form of whitewashing. It's like, no, we always wanted you here. Now you guys are making it so we can accept you finally. It's like, no, that's not true.
So like
be honest
rainbows and unicorn washing.
There you go, unicorn washing. It's fiction added to nonfiction reality, and that's gross, but this is how you were supposed to do it. Like, if you want to add diversity to your story, send one of your characters that's going to be spending all of his time in Wyoming to Africa at the beginning.
Oh yeah, and let's be honest, we got to actually see some really solid African native actors and African native characters that we could all sit there and go, yeah, man, like I was visibly upset when those two hunters that were following around our main guy, like when one of them got killed, I was really upset about that because I'm like, no, I wanted those two dudes to go back to Wyoming with them.
Why must stories have red shirts?
But seriously, how great would it have been to have like two Maasai warriors on the Redstone Ranch, like just being total fish out of water? Like that would have been amazing.
But that was the thing, is they wouldn't have been fish out of water because like that they were cowboys in Africa. The African cowboy is a hunter. They take care of the beast, and that to me, like, that was the beautiful symmetry. But also another beautiful thing I got from it was like, oh, Black Panther makes sense again. like I've heard about those stories. I've heard about those tribesmen and those hunters, and I believed in them, especially after watching Ace Ventura 2, and like seeing that, like I've always understood that the American Indians were warrior killers, but then the Americans make them look bad. But then Ace Ventura, who goes in pretending like he's the hottest thing since anything, gets stabbed in the spear twice before he
Gets
makes
stabbed
his
with 3
first
spears.
attack. Right. And that is exactly what any American would experience when messing with a Native American tribe or any other tribe, because that's what they do. They fight amongst each other and then they kill anything that tries to threaten the tribe.
Well,
Like,
dude,
it's just
that's humanity
fight,
in a
fight.
nutshell.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it is, but that's a that was a very entertaining reference. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. We're really kind of
ADHD
hitting on
for
all
the win, y'all.
cylinders this today, man. I'm saying.
The energy is here and the vibe is in sync. Absolutely.
That's a shout out mostly to the people that have been in our chat all the time, dog. Like, I've been getting more hyped. At first, it was like, okay, I should keep doing the show, but now it's like, oh, I get to do the show. Like, I love it, and I love y'all's interaction. It's always been so fun and nice, but the more you guys have interacted, the more I've gotten to get ready to interact.
And arguably, Tuesday is the worst day of the week. Like, I know people hate Monday and whatnot, but it's like, Monday, you're still, if you work the standard 9 to 5 taxation plantation job, you come into a Monday and it's like, you're still kind of vibing on the weekend high. It's still transitioning out of Sunday. Tuesday, as somebody else put it earlier on Twitter, is like Tuesday and Thursday are filler days. But Tuesday being the worst of the filler days because it's not Wednesday, it's just Monday. It's that shit sandwich day in between in the beginning of the week. Whereas at least with Thursday, you can go, it's Friday tomorrow. Do I want to be hungover? I don't know.
Yeah, it's Friday, Junior. You got a shot, right?
Monday, everybody, including Boss, knows it's Monday. Tuesday, yeah, you had Monday yesterday. Get over it.
Of course, it's always catastrophic, and not necessarily on a Monday where Monday was a holiday. But man, I always hate it after a Monday kind of Monday when you get a full on Monday that happens on Tuesday. When everything bad that was supposed to happen on Monday happens on Tuesday, that's when it's like, oh man, I'm gonna kill so many people when I get home.
Like when you hear about people crying at work, you're like, I get it.
But getting back to 1923, we actually saw some really cool stuff this episode. We finally started seeing the Native American girl starting to get closer to the main character arcs, because those sheep are a nice little callback, and we saw Clint before, and you know what? I'm really kind of liking Clint.
Dude, how many of you are not hyping her up as like a central hero, like actual superhero on their hero's journey? Like, she was justified in her homicide. Pretty Batman-esque.
Yeah.
I was actually really happy that they called out all of the recent Canadian schools that they had found from Native Americans.
Worse.
I was like, they just called that out. It was a beautiful moment.
In the most beautiful sentence that I have ever heard this show say, Canada is worse. That is absolutely correct. Isn't that right, Corione?
Stop trying to get his Bitcoin locked up, dude.
I see your little taser and I raise you overkill over firepower because this thing is stupid ridiculous, but I love it anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, at least I could tase you into the carpet and still watch Deep Space Nine, right? So.
And have like a nice massaging chair as he convulses underneath you.
Yeah, exactly, right? But seriously though, I really did like that they did that. I like the character that they're building here. I'm very curious to see how she's going to be interacting with the Duttons. I am really hoping there's something happens where the Duttons kind of hide her on the ranch or something along those lines, because I think that would be great, and that would foster that relationship that we see later in Yellowstone between the native community and the Yellowstone Ranch and the Duttons. that there's like this really tight bond between the group of them, even though they like, you know, they just both kind of do their own thing most of the time. So I feel like we've got potential here.
I feel like we do have potential, but I don't really want to see that, because that kind of like, again, like whitewashes like the experience of the Native Americans in terms of like, oh, look at the one family in this history that, you know, got it right all the time. Like the way I've been seeing the Duttons is like, they're not good in terms of like the hero family.
Okay, I take issue with that statement, though.
Hold on. Let me finish. They're good in terms of good enough. Like
that's all any of us good people are.
Right, and that's what I mean. Is like we've been painting in fiction.
Okay,
that,
okay,
like,
but here's the problem. Here's the problem with your. I'm trying to, but I can't get over the fact that you said that,
but you're
you know,
skipping ahead because I haven't got to the end.
Well, that's because you said whitewashing, and I'm sorry, but
No,
there were families and groups of people that did stand alongside the Native Americans when the time came. There's people that stood alongside during the civil rights movement. Okay, like I don't know where this idea. I'm sorry, but what you just said is a bunch of woke crap.
No, but hear me out.
No, let me finish why I think it's crap, and then I'll let you finish.
I hear you because you didn't let me finish.
So no. You said a stupid term. Like you said, whitewashing. It's not whitewashing.
I know, and so here's why it's whitewashing. Here's why it's whitewashing. It's whitewashing in the same way that Disney's Pocahontas is whitewashing, because it's like this fantastical story that one of the colonists that came over was just this beautiful, respectful, puritanical man who waited till marriage to get married. But the real story of Pocahontas was one of rape and pillaging.
Okay, so you're saying, so maybe I misunderstood you.
So what I'm saying is
it's not doing that?
No, I'm saying if Coriolan's story comes true, it is doing that.
I don't agree.
No, see, I disagree with that.
Hard disagree.
Let me finish first. Let me say how it is that, and then you can disagree before you just disagree because I say it is that. So I'm saying it is that because this is one of the most modern, loudest, best representations of just standard human life in America, from Yellowstone being about, you know, the cow culture, the cowboy culture, a culture that takes up most of America and is represented as America in a lot of other cultures. So the cowboy culture is the American's American. And in Yellowstone, the reverence that is adhered to for the reservation and the American Indians on the reservation is not one of, we've always been helping you out, so you have to help us out. It's one of, no, the government screws over everybody, and we understand that. Like, we understand your plight. You're not going to get our property. We're not giving you the Yellowstone. We're not just here to give you what you want. We're not going to listen to the whole woke agenda of literally redistributing our wealth because we made ourselves wealthy. Instead, we're going to respect you for being human beings who have land near our land. And as fellow landowners, let's treat each other with respect. And that's, to me, what the sheep symbol represented more through the story, was like, that was another demonstration. The Duttons did not have the cowboy manpower to maintain the sheep, and they knew exactly who was suffering the most without the sheep. So they gave them to those people because they're respectful human beings, not because they're this superhero human family that always knows right from good. And if I'm
I don't get that impression at all.
But if you were to add the idea of them protecting this Native American woman, and that adds to the ties of the relationship, you see more of that throughout future seasons. That's, to me, what it comes off as. Is like, these people always knew right from wrong, and they always chose right. And the show has never done that, but I feel like doing that would do that.
Hard disagree, but I'll let Corion explain since it was his idea.
Yeah. So first, there's two pieces here. One, you need to look up a group called the Righteous Gentiles from World War II. These were Germans and what have you that went out of their way to protect Jewish families or get them out of Dodge. So this does happen in historical context. Second, hold on. I let you finish. You let me finish. Second, is there any doubt in your mind, any doubt at all, the character Helen Mirren is playing, if she came across a young woman who was in trouble, wouldn't move heaven and earth to protect her regardless of what she looked like. That is the character she's playing. Like, literally, we see in this episode her being so concerned about a young woman's reputation that she would go find a crooked priest to make a little bit of an alteration on a marriage certificate just to make sure that she had a good reputation in the community. So to my mind, there is no doubt in my mind that if she ran into a native girl, that the natives said, like, look, this person is in trouble. We can't protect her. We need help. They would say, yeah, come on, we'll bring her on the ranch. We'll find her a job here, and we'll keep her under wraps.
Okay.
No doubt in my mind, based on Helen Mirren's character alone.
100% agree. My part and my only issue is if that becomes a running trend throughout the themes, is like they're always doing that kind of stuff, because only Helen would do that at this point in the story. Everybody else is kind of busy with their own busy. And
I'm sorry, I disagree. Again, hard disagree. If that were true, then somebody would have put up a stink about giving the sheep to the natives in the first place. And so I don't think that's the case at all.
The people that were in that moment, most of them died. We're down to 3 of the original. That's what I'm saying.
But
that's
even
how busy
then,
they are with their own busy. Like, they're all devastated emotionally that I don't think they could see past it. Whereas Helen Mirren's character is literally the only one that could see past
I'm
her
sorry.
own
That
stuff.
just sounds like
In
you're
this
projecting
moment.
false prejudices on that characters that doesn't exist, and that's exactly what wokeists do.
I'm not saying it's prejudice. I'm saying that if that becomes like the growing trend throughout the season, throughout the seasons, throughout the series, that it's like the Duttons always took care of the Native Americans and that's why they have a relationship with them. That's not what Yellowstone shows us. Yellowstone shows us that the Duttons respect landowners as landowners because that's what you're supposed to do.
Okay,
Well,
I really
so
don't
let
see
the
what... I think you're just
Americans
making
step
up
on
controversy and concern here, honestly. That's how it's coming across.
Okay, well then, yeah, like, because in my mind, there is nobody on that ranch, not one person, that is going to try to tell Helen Mirren anything, up to and including Harrison Ford's character.
No, I don't think
Nobody is going to
nobody
try
would-
to disagree with her if that comes up.
And the
I'm
thing is, the people who are...
talking-
This is the other thing, John. The whole thing about people being prejudiced,
I feel like you're jumping down my throat,
that
but
was-
you're not hearing what I'm saying.
because you don't know what you're saying. You're not hearing yourself, and you're not hearing us give you feedback. You're mad that we're disagreeing with you heavily.
Because I adapted to what Corion was saying, because I was just saying that if this becomes a running trend throughout the seasons,
Well, we
it
don't know
will
that there's going to be
become
more than this
whitewashing.
one season. Like, it's not whitewashing. You're wrong. I'm telling you, you're wrong. And
If
you're
it
wrong
becomes
because
a
the
running
thing about
trend, it
the
would
thing
be.
about people being prejudiced is it was actually the loud minors, the minority few. Most people haven't given a shit one way or the other. Most of us just want to live our lives in peace, okay? The whole concept of people being racist and whatnot, it wasn't as many people throughout different periods of time as we've been led to believe. Now, I'm not saying it didn't happen. Obviously, it did. And this show does a great job of showing when and where it was. But at no point does anybody on the Dutton Ranch belittle the Native Americans. In fact, they belittle the sheep herders because the sheep herders are encroaching on their land. So that tells me that these are people that already know, like you said, respect fellow landowners.
Exactly. I'm not saying it is whitewashing. I'm saying Corion's hypothesized theoretical line, if that becomes a continued trend, that would become whitewashing.
I think you're reading too much into it, and we just have to see how it plays out.
That's
So
exactly
I think what the
I'm
trend
doing,
will
because
be-
I'm not jumping on what the story is telling us. I'm saying based on what Corion hypothesized for future episodes, if he's right and that line projects and continues and it keeps following that thread, then it is whitewashing.
No, I
if
don't
he's
agree.
right,
I think you're
it
making too
doesn't-
much of an assumption and a declarative
he's
based
right,
off of a
if it doesn't-
hypothetical.
If
I don't
he's
agree with
right
it.
and it doesn't follow that trend, it's not whitewashing. Like, he can be right.
So-
I'm saying if every single other episode after this keeps highlighting how good the Duttons are to the Native Americans, that's whitewashing and boring.
No,
Don't
Well,
agree.
no,
So here's what I think is going to happen, though. I think there's going to come a point where the Duttons are actually going to be behind the 8 ball pretty significantly, and the native community is going to be the one that rescues them. Mm-hmm. And it'll start a back and forth between the two of them where they're bailing each other out continuously. It'll be an equilibrium, a balance, like a symbiotic kind of balance between the two of them. And that is what I'm predicting will happen.
And that's what I want to happen, because that shows how communities build trust despite literally having every reason not to.
Yep.
And
that's what all aboard the good ship relationship. Or bad ship. I don't know. It depends.
Speaking of bad ships.
I really do want to make sure.
Dude, so this episode, first of all, this show is really good. It's really good at putting some intense scenes together, because, oh wow, that whole sequence with the floating abandoned vessel, and I'm like, does he actually get out of this one? I have no idea now. I have no clue what's going to happen now, and I'm so happy about all of it. It's
well, are they
such
dead?
Well done misdirection.
Are they dead because there was an in memoriam right after that?
See,
and I don't want to look up the actor because I don't want spoilers.
My prediction is actually that the two of them got off the tugboat and are now on the ghost ship with no engine, somewhere out in the middle of the ocean. That's actually my prediction as to what's going on.
Yeah.
That they're going to have this hell of a time getting there, and by the time they finally make it back to the US, the whole situation is going to be resolved. Because, like, that's what it's looking like at this point.
Well, that I think ties to the points that I never got to make because I was behind on the homework, to episode 4. I think the start of episode 1 is the 3 weeks prior to the letter saying that, like, you need to come home, right? Because he read that 3 weeks, which is like what they said was the send time. So I think the African team and the people traveling from Africa, they are 3 months behind the Yellowstone team.
So I don't see it anymore.
Just based on it's very finicky, so I'm totally guessing, but based on the way that, so like they were like 3 weeks, you received this letter 3 weeks ago is when it was dated, and that was like, you need to come home. So that's when he started his mission. But then in the episode 1, we found out that was 3 episodes or 4 episodes, 3 episodes prior to episode 4, right? Because episode 4 is where we actually get what happened after the first scene in episode 1. So that was those 3 weeks. Then we get a week. Then we lost a month, because of whatever for production, but it could have also been for story because they skipped ahead. She said, this is the first good news I've heard in months. But literally right before they left for the climb, the cattle run, that they were all hyped. It was all good things. So like, how many months passed between the last episode 4 and this episode in the story, on top of them finally moving towards like so many like lines going on. But the African team, I feel like, is technically still behind all of the events of episode 5.
Yeah, I don't see it anymore.
I think they're in episode 4 while we're in 5, while watching them go through 4.
I actually think it's even farther behind, because you have to wonder how long did it take for that letter to get to Africa, given that it would have had to arrive on steamer ship.
That's what I mean. So they said 3 weeks, and it was dated, or was it 3 months?
Yeah, 3 months makes sense to me.
Yeah, it was 3 months to get to them, but he received the letter 3 weeks
prior
later,
to reading it.
So almost an entire 4 months.
Yeah. So we're watching them about 4 months behind.
They could actually still be parallel. That's so fun, though. I like thinking that there's a time dilation error,
That's fine.
but also, like, if it's not, I like that they made me think there is.
I still think there is, and honestly, I think they're probably going to have the Africa team show up probably at the second or if not last episode of the show, and have them show up in the big finale and have that be the cliffhanger, or have something happen to them that they don't make it and that's the cliffhanger, while the rest of the show is going on at the ranch.
Yeah. It's also actually got me really thinking, because
Look to the west on the third dawn of the third day kind of situation.
yeah, basically.
That's really fun though.
Dude, if we get some epic Lord of the Rings style battles, like, I don't know. I don't care. This show's earned it as far as I'm concerned. The narratives are good. The characters are good. If we want to have a big, epic, just all-out brawl in the Yellowstone, okay.
I'm so excited to go back and rewatch this and notice all the foreshadowing we missed once we know what finally happens.
I actually have an interesting theory, because I know Helen Mirren's character actually said, "Wait till you meet my son who's in Africa." So wouldn't it be interesting that, say, he shows up and there's a fight going on, and the next thing you know, a guy gets sniped from nowhere, and she walks up and goes, "I think you've met my son."
The younger brother.
Yeah.
The younger brother's in a fight, and the older brother finally shows up. Not even sniped from nowhere, just an incoming car. Bah! Like, he was so able to see it from so far away that he knew he needed his gun.
No. The guy with a horse.
No. Even better. He's like, he gets together on the way back with like some of his old World War I buddies, and they like pull up in like a vehicle with like a Maxim mounted on it and just machine gun the whole area down. And it's just a hose of bullets. And that's when Harold and Mira goes, "So you met my son?" You know?
Oh, dude, she brings the white flag over to him and goes, "So you've met my son?"
Yeah. You may want to fly this, and yeah. Yeah.
That would be so epic. I would love that. And I would love, like, I know this show is capable of it because I've seen it in all of the seasons of Yellowstone. Like, there's so much foreshadowing that ended up mattering. And even the ghost ship, it mattered at the end of the episode. Again. Like, that's how good this writer is at tying in random things. So for him to tie even time dilation or no time dilation, to tie it all to make it work, like, he's capable of it. And I'm so excited to see what it comes.
Yeah, I'm 1923 is working out really well. I want to see what 1924 has to bring too.
Well, I don't know. Don't get your hopes up too much, because before this was 1883, which was a one and done. And so, I don't know. Maybe we'll get more. I'm liking this era, though, that they're working with.
I'm liking this skip. It's like happily ever after, and now they're in charge. Yep. Happily ever after, and now they're in charge.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think it's fantastic. So, if you like the tints seen in the Africa scenes in 1923, well, I've got good news for you. I know a guy. Some portions of this broadcast, whichever ones you want to imagine, are brought to you by CNC Sutlery. For all of your Civil War reenactment supplies needs, CNC Sutlery has what you need. Now, you might be wondering, why would a show like this be sponsored or have anything to do with the sutlery? It just seems so out of place. And, well, as I said, it's not. If you go to the homepage here and you scroll all the way down to... They moved it. Great. So, oh, there it is. Oh, they just changed the picture. Okay, cool. Website got updated. Over here on the production credits, you'll find, of course, a list of all the different reenacting regiments. Just pick your state and try to get in contact with them that way. But if you scroll down here, of course, here are all the stuff for movies and TVs that that have been provided by CNC Sutlery for, well, you can see how long here. Now, if you want to support us directly on this show, there is actually a way that you can, and that is if you go to the sales page, which, ooh, cool, knew you birdie. And you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the sales page, you will find, when I get there, Wow, it's a lot of stuff on sale. You will find these men's nightcaps. They are, of course, handmade by our very own H. Marie here. Comes in a variety of different colors, hand-stitched, wears on your head just like this person here displays. And there you go. $30, you get a free nightcap that's made by H. Marie. Help support us. Please tell them that the Ryder Brothers sent you. And with that little ad break out of the way, we have now come back to
ad. We should admit that H. Marie is an AI machine 3D printing those nightcaps.
That's right. What you see on the screen is actually just an AI-generated picture. She's not real. I'm so lonely.
We are so good at the computers.
So, back out. Yeah, now instead of 100 years in the past, let's go ahead and jump, almost 200 years in the future?
Yeah.
No,
roughly.
300. 24th century. We're in the 21st. Back out to our favorite little space station, Deep Space Nine. Who's got the summary for the first episode?
So, keeping up with the Cardassians, or actually just Cardassians.
You're right. We need to update the title for modern era.
Yep. So Bashir is surprised when his friend Garrick, a Cardassian tailor, is attacked and bitten by a young Cardassian boy with a Bajoran who's being cared for by a Bajoran family. And very shortly afterwards, Gul Dukat gets involved. So, I feel like that's the most basic we can actually give away without completely annihilating the plot on this one. Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite episodes in the series because of how much it deals with.
Dude, it's not even just dealing with shit. It's super relevant, too.
Oh, yeah. This is... I would argue that this episode is... Here we go. This episode is probably one of the best encapsulations of what Deep Space Nine can and should be doing, especially in the early episodes. Because when we think about it, we get a very heavily character-driven story arc. We get political intrigue. We get a social question that we're still really dealing with today. Right? And we also get some very tough decisions where there isn't really solid, one right answer. There is a lot of discussion, though, and a lot of making you stop and think, right? To me, the best parts of this episode deal with when this young Cardassian boy is in the same room with Miles O'Brien. Now, for those who don't have the backstory, Miles O'Brien was a soldier in the Federation Cardassian Wars and saw a lot of terrible stuff, an awful lot of terrible stuff. And he really got through that war by learning to hate the Cardassians. So being in a situation where he's dealing with this kid who appears to really hate his own people, and then dealing with a father who only wants to love his son, and having to have that moment of, look, you got to be aware, your son is probably not going to react well to seeing you, but having so much difficulty saying that. And just the poor, there's a little bit of a trend of, Miles O'Brien being tortured. And I think you could argue that if this isn't the start, it's getting close to it.
Oh, no, we've already had some O'Brien must suffer throughout the
I feel like
show.
O'Brien is a triple entendre in this episode. Mostly because I forgot about the backstory. You have brought it up in the past, but I forgot about it. And so now remembering it on top, that makes it the triple entendre, because there's that scene where his wife is hosting Rugal, and he goes, yeah, he should hate Cardassians. I get he is one, but also, they're not that great. And for me, I was like, that I'm with the wife. That was an ugly thing to say. Don't repeat it, man. That's messed up. But then now to add on what Corion added, so that's the triple entendre. He wasn't being shitty. He was being...
Well, he was. But he had more justification than other people who've, oh yeah, I heard the Cardassians are bad, therefore they're bad. He had experience to draw from. That's the difference.
Right. And so in his remark, what he was doing was he was actually relating to Rugal.
Yeah.
Because Rugal hated the Cardassians the same way he did. He's like, no, there's a lot of bad ones. And historically, they just don't get it right. They have not figured out how to play nice. So yeah, I get why he hates those people. And she's like, no, you don't just hate people. And it's like, no, people don't just hate people. There's a reason behind it. A weight behind it. No, hatred has reason. And if you hate something and you don't have justification, like maybe you should stop hating. Because that was what the wife was trying to say.
Yeah, we should probably start hashtagging that on Twitter every day.
Yeah. But I mean, like, let's be clear also, right? Like, Keiko O'Brien didn't go through any of the stuff that Miles
exactly did, right? And she didn't truly understand her husband's experience with it, and she didn't understand that her husband was actually relating to Rugal when he was saying that, rather than being racist.
Yeah, like my headcanon theory on why Miles even took the posting in Deep Space Nine was because he knew what the Bajorans went through under Cardassian rule. He understood.
It's now my headcanon, thank you.
Yeah, and like he knew, and that's why he was there, was because he wanted to keep them from ever having to experience that again.
Keeping out the Cardassians.
I don't think that's headcanon. I think that's canon. Because like if you think about it, like he was being pushed by his wife to find a place to settle down so they could raise their daughter, but he picked the worst spot.
Yeah. And you got to wonder why, and I think this is the reason why. And so we get major
subliminal, like they knew that was why.
Oh yeah, no, it's like subtextual. Like they never specifically called this out, so that's why I say it has to remain headcanon.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But like it so makes a lot of sense. And then we have Bashir and Garrick's relationship, which, man, Garrick is totally trying to get into Bashir's pants. Right? I mean, he even hacked the door code, like, ooh, but
yes, that's probably where he'd put it.
Yeah, well, but at the same time, we really get that he really, like, Garrick really despises Dukat, like, really despises this dude, and it's just built I wonder why, right? Like, what the hell is the history between those two? And the fact that Garrick is willing to go to all these lengths, he's willing to go to go to Bajor, and, a place where he knows he's not exactly the most welcomed person there. Like, they're not going to throw him a parade anytime soon. Maybe a lynching, but not a parade. And he's still going and he's still trying to deal with this. And his interaction with the little girl in the orphanage, I thought was amazingly well done, because you could feel his heart breaking, but he also knew there was nothing he could do at the present time, right?
And he switched to professionalism.
Yeah.
Like, it really felt like he gave that little girl his customer service voice because he wanted to cry, not because that was the only thing he was supposed to say.
Yeah. Like 100%, he is probably the spy / assassin with a heart of gold, right? And that's the amazing. Oh, and like very like heavily implied dude who tortured people for a living, and also for fun and profit. And yet he's got this heart of gold. That makes him a deep character, I think.
I get this vibe, so I don't know anything about Garrick, and so this is intro level me coming into this.
That's why we started this show with you.
Yeah, exactly.
So for this moment right here. These are my favorite parts.
This comment is so Garrick in this episode, and I know I've seen Garrick before, so I know I'm not supposed to actually trust him. I just mean, like, in my mind's eye, I know he's always kind of lying. I always know he's got a silver tongue, like Fingers from Game of Thrones.
Littlefinger
from Game of Thrones. always seen as Garrick's head in my mind's eye. Yeah, I am Revan. I did play KOTOR 1, so I am Revan.
I'm basically Revan. Yeah, you're right. We all are. I'm Revan. He's Revan. Even she's Revan.
But no, so like the way I get Garrick is that he's the ideologue. Like,
Okay.
he understands policy and procedure, and he is willing to die on it if he believes in it. But until the Cardassian, like, Bajoran changeover of power and now his separation from Cardassia, at least in social life, he's very much more and more aware of how the policies were abused. So, like, I don't think he has any emotional qualms, but he's very aware about how and why it went wrong. Like, he knows where all the critical control points failed, and he had no control over them, so he's not going to take blame for it. But he sees what happened.
Well, I will say this. According to Garrick, he always tells the truth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but which
I
one's the
hate
truth? Oh,
that
wait,
line.
spoilers.
Because
Spoilers for one of the best lines.
I hate that truth because as a fellow truth teller, I only tell the truth I feel like telling.
Wow, that one's actually really deep. It's not that. You might want to work on the phrasing for that one.
No, because if you think about it, you can mislead, misinform, and misappropriate with the truth. All you have to
Well, yeah,
do
the
is
best
leave out
lies
the
are laced
major
with truth.
details. But no, I'm saying you don't lie. You just say like, "Hey, I'm going to go over here, and I intentionally want you to go over there and set that bomb off." But I didn't say that.
I actually would argue that the best way to tell a lie is to tell the truth, but tell it in a very unconvincing way.
That's what I mean. I
Like
only
in
tell the
movies.
truth I feel like telling.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think the other part of this that we really get a lot out of is, I would argue that we get some really poignant Cisco moments too, because you can clearly thought he was opting with, right? Like, he's starting to realize that he isn't just a military commander; he's effectively a planetary governor as well, right? Like, he's going to be settling issues like this for most of his command, is what he's probably sitting there thinking to himself. Like, this is going to be a thing that's going to keep happening.
Well, and he's a religious figure, too, on top of that.
Right. Yeah, I really get the feeling that they are, like, I said it earlier for our discussion, but, like, nobody thinks about Aragorn leading the Empire, and I think Deep Space Nine is the perfect example of what happens if one of these noble Starfleet captains is in charge of a city-state.
Yeah.
And when I say perfect example, I do mean in its conception and its example. Like, it obviously it was written as a fiction, but that doesn't mean you can't live up to the standards that Cisco sets. Like, if you take charge of a city and you run it the way Cisco runs Deep Space Nine, thanks.
Well, I would argue that it's easy to run a city when you've got O'Brien running the taking care of the infrastructure, but
And your sheriff is Odo, but
yeah, exactly, right.
But even then, Cisco didn't go in there thinking he was going to get O'Brien. Didn't know he was going to get Odo. Didn't know he was going to get Major Kieran. Cisco went in there knowing he was going to take charge and figure it out. And he does, and continues to do so. And that's what a leader does.
Oh yeah. I'm still saying though, like, it's a lot easier to get away with a lot of the stuff he gets away with when you know that the sonic showers are always going to work. And the law on the promenade is controlled by a dude who can literally turn himself into a bug to listen in on your conversations if he ever needed to, right? Like,
And
it's a lot
you're not-
easier.
Especially when you're the kind of officer that isn't a narc, though. Like,
Well,
he
yeah.
doesn't demand perfect obedience to orders according to him. He demands obedience to orders when he says them, as seen in the next episode, when the officer, or no, in this episode, when
Bashir interrupts the call. That was so awesome.
Dude, that was such a beautiful example of how a leader corrects a bad behavior done correctly.
Oh yeah.
Like, good judgment, good initiative, still not okay.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, and the best was when he wakes him up in the middle of the night and it's like, I need a runabout. Why do you need a runabout? Well, it's really Garrick needs a runabout. Oh, will one do, or does he need all of them? Like, should I summon all of Starfleet? Like, you know, like I was so, you know, like you half expected Sisko to pimp slap Bashir right then and there in that moment, and it was brilliantly done.
But that was also a beautiful example of taking charge as the hero. Like, Bashir technically is the hero of this episode, right?
Yep.
And this is what you do when you know what you're doing is against the rules, but the right thing to do. You do it, own the consequence, but still keep going because you know you're right.
Oh yeah. And to be fair, I mean, I really think Bashir got saved by the ops communication there, because, you know, all of a sudden things started coming together and Sisko's like, wait a minute, there really is something more going on here. I actually need this Cardassian Taylor to produce some solid intel. All right, go. Right?
Yeah, and look at that goes again to like testament to Sisko. He knew Bashir might be right.
Yeah.
But also, most likely he's completely wrong. But he still gave it to him, still trusted him, still gave him props, and only kind of corrected the behavior. Like, that's a leader knowing that he's got a hero in his midst, but also rein that hero in just in case he's an idiot trying to be a hero.
Well, I mean, I think that's okay. That's what you want to see from COs when dealing with junior officers, right? Because you do have to occasionally slap them around a little bit so that they learn the finer points of command. But you don't want to completely crush the initiative either. So it's like this delicate hand you have to take.
And that's why I say, like, Deep Space Nine, Sisko is the epitome of good leadership. He legitimately doesn't know what he's going to get out of his people, but he's got people around him that he knows are trying to do the same thing he's doing, which is take care of the station, take care of the people within the station. And he trusts them to do it, even if he knows he's only trusting his gut.
Yeah. So do we want to move on to the next one here, or if you guys got...
Well, so I want to say this to anybody who's still debating on joining us on this ride along. I was getting pretty bored with Deep Space Nine, and I continue as I get ready to get prepared for the episode. I get bored, and I realize the only reason I get bored is because I'm not binging it. Because every time I finally do press play, I might take my eyes off my work computer. I might pay complete attention and just not focus on what I was doing. And I might really want to go to the next episode again. And occasionally do, but don't. But occasionally do. And so if you're thinking like, oh, we're kind of like glossing over this stuff, it's like, yeah, because there's so much good. Like, we're trying to hit the spark notes in the few hours that we got because it's so fun, and you should go back. Paramount did pay a lot of money to upscale this show, and it worked.
No, they didn't. They haven't upscaled it at all.
Upscaled?
No.
Oh, well, they did something to make it so that it looks upscaled on my TV. Like, it stretches it out to the full.
That must be
Screen.
something your TV does, because, yeah, there is no HD version of DS9 right now, sadly. There needs to be, but, I mean, there's an HD version of MASH. Come on.
I actually want to see them revisit the space scenes and do it up, like an upgrade the visuals
CG?
on that. Yeah.
No.
That's what I would like.
No. Do models.
Okay.
Put in the effort and let's put some models and touch up the models with CG. That is some of the best. I mean, yeah. I'm an unbiased, or at least I try to be as unbiased as possible. Farce Awakens, say what you will, I'll never watch that movie again, but I will always praise that film for its combination of practical and CG effects because they blended so seamlessly. And that's what I think is the best thing to do is let's do, so if you want to redo the battle scenes, bust out the plastic, 3D print some models. Let's get those models out there, let's blow them up with real explosions and touch them up with effects, and if we need like cool flyby shots with CG, that's what Seth did with the Orville. He did a combination. The Orville is both a model and a CG. Like, that was freaking brilliant.
I hear you. I mean, like, personally, okay, I'm coming at this from having been a B5 fan for a long period of time, and seeing what they did now, modern day, when they did the Lost Tales versus the original CG. I am all for people going through and retouching.
Well, and this would be the way to do it, because I'm looking back at the TOS remaster, and I'm like, okay, visually it's fine, but I don't think they should have done CG Enterprise. I think they should have just reshot the model and done the original footage that way, because it's like, now it feels out of place because the CG is dated, and it just doesn't look good.
To me, I feel like this is where Paramount should spend its Star Trek fund right now, because they haven't found the writers. So what they should do is they should find some really, like, they should go to Forza's team. Forza New Horizons, their Forza 5 team, they literally took 1 foot by 1 foot, like 64K pictures of every inch of the land that they intended to put into the screen. So when they put it into Unreal 5's Nanite engine, they weren't capturing any wind. They were literally inch by inch for the blocks to get like this amazing Mayan architecture. Like, they were literally at the pyramids, in the Mayan pyramids, taking these pictures. And when you play the game, if you have like a upscaled computer or screen, you can literally feel like you're in that part of Mexico. And I think that's the people that should be updating the screens behind the models. They should like reshoot the models, but then have these video game developers redevelop your space. Because if you only need them to do a couple scenes of space, they're going to make it feel exactly like space.
Yeah. I mean, I would actually argue that the guys who did Battlestar Galactica's space battle scenes would be ideal for remaking the Deep Space Nine ones. Because I really enjoyed that, right? But so should we move on to Melora?
Oh, well, I was gonna say, John, if you're enjoying DS9 and it's capturing your interest each time, bro. So next season, Cisco gets a new toy, and the season after that, we get a new theme song, or an updated theme song.
I'm so excited. And I also, that was something that I wanted to point out, because it's been a recurring theme through people suggesting TV to me. They go, season 1 and 2, they're good, but season 3, that's good. And this is a shout out to the studio execs. Look at the season 3s of everything you've produced. There's a reason it worked. It's because they finally felt like they had job security. Offer a little job security. Buy the product that has job security worthy development. Because if you give these people job security, they're going to 1, 2, 3 season beauty. But if you keep threatening to fire them after the pilot and then the second pilot, they're not going to be able to put their full effort into it because they're scared that they might lose an opportunity.
Yeah. There's also the fact that by this time, the actors and everybody that they're working with have all gelled and are now functioning together. That's the other reason why typically at that stage in the game, you see
and
a
that's
lot
why
of...
I bring up job security. If everybody knows that they're there for their contract and not to appeal to like the director or appeal to the writer that their contract is satisfied, then they're going to get to know everybody faster because their contract is guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you prevent all this getting to know each other stuff. Is you make some guarantees.
There's also another little piece here that I think you guys would be interested to know. This is around the time this, I believe, episode 5 of this season is when Armin Shimmerman started pulling everybody who was going to be wearing, who's going to be appearing as a Ferengi together and running lines at his house and really like nailing down what Ferengi were.
Job security provides your workers the initiative to do stuff like that. Like, he got so comfortable, he was like, hey guys, let's just take this seriously. We're not playing characters on a screen. We're the Ferengi now.
Yeah, shit like that is why, like, there's very few celebrities I actually give a damn to meet. And Armin Shimmerman is one of them because of that stuff there. And while I don't agree with some of his personal views,
yeah,
I could tell the dude means well, and I can tell he's the type of guy I'd share a drink with. We'll just
he takes his craft seriously, and it'd be interesting to pick his brain.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to share a craft brew with him. All right, if there's nothing further on keeping up with the Cardassians, let's go ahead and move on to we'll get into it. Melora. The crew on DS9 is preparing for the arrival of Ensign Melora Paslar. She's the first Elazian to join Starfleet and used to a very low-gravity environment, and as a result is unable to move in a normal environment and needs to use a special wheelchair. Melora is very tough on herself and doesn't want to accept any more aid that is necessary. She wants to take a runabout on her own to make maps of the Gamma Quadrant, but Sisko demands Dax will join her. Bashir takes more than a passing interest and invites her to a Klingon restaurant. Meanwhile, Quark is about to do a very lucrative transaction on 42 very rare rings of Platris with the traitor Ashlock, when suddenly an old acquaintance of him drops in. It's Fallet Caught, and Quark seems not too happy because he wants to kill him. And that's it. And then, of course, Quark tries to convince Odo, hey, I'm in trouble. And he's like, oh, darn.
You're right. I mean,
Odo does respond, but according to the letter of the law.
Well, to be fair, Odo actually arrived really damn quick to try to rescue Quark.
Oh,
There's just not much he could have done, right?
Oh, yeah. But how many times in this series do we see Odo just do his trademark but super rare condescending just...
Yeah, like, oh, shucks. Someone's out to kill you. Yeah.
It's like the greatest day of his life right there. Oh, someone's going to kill Quark?
I love it, but that just shows the difference between, like, a narc and a sheriff. Yep. Like, Odo is not about enforcing all the rules, but come on, don't make me come over here and tell you need to follow that rule.
I would also say that, like, I really thought using a light gravity worlder as the basis for telling what effectively is a disability story was an interesting way to do it.
The concept lacks context and it lacks explanation because it falls apart very quickly when you think about it, because it's okay. I like what they were trying to do, but there's obviously more that goes on that planet besides low gravity. It's got to be some kind of force of will gravitational field, because you can't just float through. And then the whole concept, like if you took somebody who was living on that planet, like a human was living there, yeah, they'd get crushed in Earth's gravity, but they're not going to like go back to their other environment and fly around. That's not how that works. It was a cool idea. It just needed to be thought out a lot more, because it doesn't.
Their science advisor needed to sit down with them a little longer.
Disagree.
Okay, but the whole thing about her not being able to go back to her planet because she's getting the treatment to be in Earth normal gravity, it's convoluted. It's fantasy.
Yeah, that was way too convoluted because Bashir floated in her gravity speed. But what I say when I disagree is more on the Orville showing the exact opposite version of this event, where the humans go to an extra gravitational planet while also simultaneously having somebody who grew up with extra gravity existing in Earth's gravity on the Orville. And I think that is the Solarians versus this race. Like, I think they were close, especially for the 90s.
Well, no, the problem is the Elysians fly around because they're in low gravity. The
Right.
Zillians, at least, yeah, she's able to leap around because the
but I
gravity's
mean
higher.
The humans going, yeah, exactly. So like, I think this was close until you add that last part you added about her not being able to go back. Because if anything, the humans can probably still go there. Like the only thing that would fix that is that their atmosphere is almost water.
It's either
And
their
so it's like
atmosphere-
drinking oxygen.
Something in their physiology lets them fly around. There's a lot of holes in this idea that just quickly, but it was a one-off. So
There's another big hole in this one as well, because we are now dealing with a situation of, Bashir and her relationship could never really go anywhere, right? Because we're literally going to be dealing with a man of steel, woman of tissue paper kind of scenario. And
Mr. Glass.
yeah, exactly, right? Like, for medical transport needs to be standing by for whenever they go on a date, because this could not potentially end well, right?
He would be medical standby, technically, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
That's-
but I don't
that's with
know
the
if he
doctor.
wants to, operate in the buff, right? I mean, that could be awkward as
They
all
have
get
to prevent rupture.
We don't know what tickles his fancy.
out. Fair enough. His kink is not my kink, but, right?
By tickle is fancy, do you
okay, point made, and then made several more times.
Well, because it's funny. We got to keep hitting on
Well,
it,
yeah, it's
right?
funny, but we're also PG-13. At some point, the joke's got to stop.
Why do you think we keep making the joke subtly? It's PG.
It was getting less subtle because it kept going. That's not how subtle. My God, you guys suck sometimes. We're doing so good up until right now. No, I'm just kidding.
There's a lot of repetitive subtleties.
It's Corey Owens throwing the pineapple. I'm throwing the pineapple. Everyone gets to throw the pineapple at least once.
Yeah, I don't swear, so I get to make colorful metaphors. Dude.
Exactly. But that's also the best part, because we do have to really think about our dirty talk a little bit more, and that makes us sound slightly more intelligent than we actually are. So, I mean, it works, but it's also like, okay, run-on sentence. No, done.
Yeah.
Did you say we write loopholes?
But
Yeah.
yeah, I do think they were trying to tell like a Little Mermaid story.
Exactly. And they just didn't think with this one. They just came up with a concept and then threw it in, and then it's like they wrote the story but didn't think of the concept. It's the opposite problem we have today, where everyone comes up with a kick-ass concept and then they're like, diversity and wokeism, oh right, we forgot to actually write a plot, but whatever, it'll work, right? Well, no. Here in this case, it's, we have a cool disability, oh shit, it really is just like today. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
So, no, I'll be honest with you. Most of the time I do skip this episode when I do a rewatch. Just because I find it doesn't add too much to the main story arc.
It's
That
forgettable.
That being said, I do like the first appearance of the Klingon restaurant.
Yeah, so we got at least one really good thing out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, like,
I feel like you guys missed a major thing you get out of it, because
Okay.
I've been watching you guys talk about Bashir since he showed up, and you kind of like make him seem like this hardcore simp for Dax. And this episode truly showed like what kind of man he is, because when he got confronted as a bad medical practitioner because he was, over sympathizing with the, am I framing out?
You're fine. It works. Just keep going.
My big thing with Bashir is that like he did feel like a simp without any standard of what a man looks like. But then when he's talking,
Damn it. That
oh,
was so perfect. He was frozen in the perfect position because I could still see him talking, even though he was just...
Oh, dude,
Anyway.
straight up, I'm going to grab a screen grab of him there, okay? And I'm going to, seriously, because I could really just, if I grade him up a little bit and gave him the little spoon head, we could have had a perfect like Cardassian facial expression there, and it would have been brilliant.
Yeah, no, that could definitely work. Yeah, sorry you got cut off, John. I was trying to pay attention, but it was just it's
brilliant.
so annoying when you start shifts moving, and it's like, really, are you gonna keep talking or not? And it was just one of those perfect moments where he was perfectly frozen, and it was like you could still see him talking without having to see him. Unfortunately, it looks like he's down hard at the moment, so hopefully he'll come back up. But yeah, it's
not even in chat.
Huh?
He's not even in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, no, I think his internet has taken. I think his internet has taken a dump. So yeah, it's a very. I guess we should have done 3 episodes this week. Wow, we're just really getting good with our timing.
Yeah.
It's a very. Like I said, it's a weak episode. It does some cool stuff. There's some interesting moments that take place, but overall, it's very campy and just, you're right, it's kind of forgettable. It's a skippable one on your rewatch. John writes in, I'm presently trying to figure out why it crashed. Well, that's,
fair
yeah.
Good luck to you,
enough.
brother.
Yeah.
I will say this.
17 minutes. Good luck.
Yeah, I will say this. I do, rewatching this episode, I did find I kind of enjoyed it a little more.
Okay.
Like it's been skippable for a while, so actually stopping and watching this one all the way through, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this one. This is kind of fun. I loved the realistic discussion of long distance relationships and relationships in the military. Right, that is a nice piece to have there. I thought that was kind of fun. I will say this though, we are coming up on Rules of Acquisition. Now, for not John, because he's not here, so I can get away with this. For anyone who's rewatching,
oh no, he's here. He's in the chat.
Okay, well, I'm going to say for anyone who's rewatching this episode for Rules of Acquisition, listen very carefully to some of the dialogue, because there's a very important line that comes up.
And you're back.
Welcome back.
Yeah. No, Rules of Acquisition. You there?
Yeah,
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Rules of Acquisition is
yeah.
I remember this one now. We got a couple of good ones. We got Rules of Acquisition coming up, and Necessary Evil. It's a good thing we're talking about this, so our viewers know which episodes to process or to watch. Yeah. Oh wow, 2 really fantastic ones for next week. Maybe even 3. Yeah. We'll see. Although next week, or is it next week? No,
God.
It is. No, we do need something for. We do need to figure out content. I totally was off by a week. I'm sorry. It's the 21st we get to review Picard, and then cleanse the palate with DS9.
Oh, okay.
Might be,
Jeez, you guys act like it's punishment.
Dude,
I guess it is.
let us know if y'all need us here on Valentine's Day, because we might need to make it just a date night.
Dude, 100%. I will go through the Klingon Rite of Ascension. I will take the pain sticks rather than Picard season 3. I gladly would. Based on what happened in season 2.
I'm sorry. Wait, did you say boomstick?
I'd take that too. You guys are gonna have to have me.
Was that an invitation to shoot you?
Listen, you guys are gonna have to have me on suicide watch throughout this entire season of Picard.
Sorry, I thought you were gonna pull out your little mini pain stick. That's what I was.
Picard season 3.
Trying to prompt.
Yeah, no, right?
Yeah.
I'll gladly be shocked by this multiple times if
it'll
get me out of it.
Let's see it.
Why'd you miss the episode?
See it. Put it on your neck right now.
Yeah, fair enough.
Zap yourself 17 times, and I'll let you think about not watching it.
No. I want guarantees.
No,
I'll do it 17 times, but I need guarantees.
No.
Every episode, you have to zap yourself once.
You're not getting out of this. If I'm going to go through it, I'm not letting you get an easy self-torture just so you don't have to watch it. No.
seriously, dude, I would let I would do a threesome with Lursa and Bator rather than watch Picard season 3.
Wow.
Right? Like, I may die, but it would mean I wouldn't have to watch.
But you wouldn't have to watch. Oh yeah, the anticipation is very high for Picard season 3 on this show.
Yeah,
The anticipation of it.
Guys,
I'm just gonna wait till we get there.
Show I kind of don't want to see.
Well, look, guys, I promise we make it up to you by continuing to watch Deep Space Nine. And anytime, just make sure you watch the Picard episode, and if it's really bad, you get to just save your DS9 for afterwards. Don't do your homework on Tuesdays, like I've made the mistake of doing.
I don't know if I could watch Deep Space Nine while I'm lying on the ground, like while I'm lying in the back of a shower, like eating cookies crying, dude. Like,
Bro, you're a computer programmer.
All right, I'm officially taking a PD.
Oh man, we don't have as big of or exciting of a panel this week, but holy shit, have we had some good singers. Yeah. So, John, you were
doing this.
What?
I'm going to be putting together a list of things I would rather do than watch Picard. That's going to be a thing.
Oh, we're putting that. Yeah, we're gonna have to do that. Oh, you know what? We could do that we do that as a weekly thing, right? We go through H. Marie's stuff. We go through Pollo Zapatos' stuff. We go through Corione's stuff. Whether or not I do stuff, I'll figure it out. And then we could even send it out to the community. What are the 5 things you'd rather do than watch Picard season 3? 5 horrible things you would do. Oh man, I was even just thinking about some rough ones. Let's see, gas station sushi.
It should be 5 things I'd rather do than watch this. What went wrong? What went right?
I think I will be hungover on the 16th.
Right?
Because, well, if I'm already going to be hurting from the day before, I might as well be hurting the next day after all the drinking, so.
Oh, boy.
Guys.
Oh, no. Better yet, it premieres at midnight. We're gonna finish off your birthday with Picard and then go to bed angry.
Guys,
There's going to be so much stocky.
I loved episode 3. I blacked out before I pressed play, and when I woke up, it was over.
Yeah, like... I suffered severe head trauma, which was still better than Picard season 3.
Guys, they set up this super elaborate mousetrap so that as soon as I press play on Picard, it just...
I mean, mousetrap the game, right?
Oh my goodness. This is going to be bad. Like, I'm going to have to watch Picard season 3 like it's a Clockwork Orange thing. Like, I'm going to have somebody come in, tie me down, force my eyeballs open, and, like, be sitting there, and I'm just going to be screaming. It's going to, like, honestly.
Dude, I'm going to be like Nicolas Cage in that movie where he could see the future, and I'm just going to be like, this is the future?
Yeah. Like... Oh,
No, you're ruining it. Make it stop. Use a different theme.
Like, H. Marie, you've got to promise us something. You need to make sure that there is no live ammunition in the house before you guys start it, because we need to keep PD alive.
Guys, I just want to
Okay, hey, no doxing the ammo.
I want all the fans to know I have hired a licensed therapist to stay on the line with Parker and Hannah as they watch this.
Guys, hold on.
I see how it is.
I didn't watch season 2, okay? So I'm a little more primed. What?
Said you have healthcare, Corione.
Fair. Fair. Like, dude, I made it through the first season of Picard. I made it.
I somehow made it too.
I somehow survived Picard season 2, but if you ask me what happened in it, like, my brain just completely blacked it out. Like, I did it. I watched the review. I recorded my results for the review that I was doing at the time, and then, like, it was gone. And, like, I have lost time because of Picard season 3.
Corione, how many shows did you let your daughter watch that are like just like blippy YouTube characters, how many of those did your daughter watch growing up? Because I know she's old enough to finally be like watching good television.
Not a whole hell of a lot. We made sure that she was watching like reasonably decent stuff along the way. Like we got her the first major shows that she got into were either very like modern redos of like the Smurfs or like the modern version of Sailor Moon, like stuff that we knew was actually not terrible. She's one of these she's like one of these horse girls, so like any TV series involving like horses or dragons, she was like all over. So like she was actually a really decent, like she had decent taste.
So you're ruining my point. But to all the parents that have watched an episode of Blippi or any of the affiliates similar to Peppa Pig, Baby Shark, Cocomelon, that's how I remember watching Picard. Is about as good as watching any episode of Cocomelon. Like, they tried to teach me nice things, but...
Oh, no. They didn't try to teach you anything. All Picard Season 1 was a grimdark emo fantasy where it just got worse and worse. I don't even know what
Cocomelon tried to teach me. If that point now is more solidified.
Yeah, Picard, okay, to the parents that are...
But Picard teaches you to give up on life, if anything.
Yeah, like, Picard, the Star Trek Picard is like, for parents out there, is the equivalent of Caillou, okay? Like, it is the worst damn
Boom!
You regret watching another bald person live through their bald life.
Yeah, like, it's... Oh my god. I am not kidding when I say that, like, you're going, as Garrick would say, you might have to put up with a certain acerbic attitude from me about Picard Season 3. Because, dude, I may be wrong, okay? I will freely say this. Something might have happened. Kurtzman might have been visited by 3 spirits this Christmas, and, like, things come together and it suddenly becomes amazing.
Third time's the charm.
Right.
Is a legitimate ritual. Right.
Or like, there is some sort of really dark sorcery that even I can't understand involved in this, or like, like Kurtzman has like a come to Jesus or come to Carnunos moment. Like, I don't care what he comes to, but he comes to something. And like, it turns out to be amazing.
I'll applaud him. With pleasure.
I'm just looking at
we set out to embark on this show to give fair and reasoned reviews on stuff, and we've done a very good job of that, sticking true to our opinions and what we think, and not, we allow each other to be influenced, but given perspective, not, you're not cool because you don't agree with me. If you don't agree with me, I like that a lot. If you agree with me, I also like that a lot. Agreeing with me or disagreeing with me is not really the way to win me over. But I do want to hear people's opinions, but I want to make sure that they're your opinions, not, oh, well, I read a review and it sucked and therefore it does. That's wrong. Don't ever say something sucks because you read a crappy review. Now, this is how reviews are supposed to work. I read a review, it didn't sound good, I don't want to bother. And that's it. And that's all the opinion that you're supposed to have at that point, because you haven't actually viewed the product. You're now just jumping on a bandwagon. And that's what we want to dispel on the Writer Brothers. We don't bandwagon. We don't do... The only cause we're for is the free exchange of ideas.
The Halo series, regrettably.
Yeah, like...
I finished Kenobi, regrettably.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't talk from a point of arrogance or from other people's opinions. I spoke from a broken heart.
I can only say the first episode of Halo sucks with a certainty. I had no interest in the rest.
Yeah, like I sat through Halo, and yeah, I'm,
Are you sure it's me that needs the therapist?
I've seen things
he
people
has
can't believe.
Healthcare.
I really enjoyed not watching the rest of the season, so I think I'm just gonna stick with that.
Yeah, but honestly, look, I will back up my opinions on Picard with legitimate freaking arguments. Right?
Absolutely,
I will absolutely do that. And if somebody says that this show is amazing, or if I happen to somehow find out it's amazing, and it turns out to be, and somebody disagrees, dude, you can make your declaratives, but back it up with evidence. That's all I'm asking.
The best way to fix season 3 is to make seasons 1 and 2 Picard's dementia story of trying to explain what happened.
I can accept that.
Yeah, like if he's been like in a coma, or like if he's been in a coma for the first 2 seasons and we're just watching like some sort of brain fever coma fantasy or whatever, that would actually make a lot more sense to me.
Or even just some kind of throwaway line that... Yeah.
Even just season 3 opens with Picard at Riker's table. And he says, and so that's what's happened so far.
Leave it up to us.
Starts over, explaining everything.
Actually, what I would find even better is he wakes up at Riker's table, and Riker says, dude, you kind of dropped off there. Are you all right? And he's like, oh, I just had a stroke. Don't mind me. And then I'll be like, yeah, okay, fine, right?
That's the opening scene, and there's no context, and they're just kind of throwing a bone to the Legacy fans. We'll be off to a very good start.
Especially if it's then just a whole different, like, Picard retiring, dealing with vineyards, and people showing up, asking him for Captain Admiral advice, and that's the whole season. I'll be like, oh, you learned.
Oh, dude. You know what I would have liked for Picard to have been? Like, really, what I would have liked for Picard to have been is Picard is running his vineyard. He's got like a little cafe that, like somebody with him is running, and captains know that they can come there to talk and have advice. And it's like a captain's table sit down where, we get like a random story from a random ship, and Picard giving his advice to this guy, and then he goes off and executes it.
And every episode is the experience of that captain before they get to the cafe, and then what happens right after the advice. Next episode.
Yep.
That's why I said, like, that's how they could fix it. Like, just to fix Picard.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight, whether you're watching this on a replay or you've been with us live. I want to say thank you to Nemesis of Eden and CC Karaoke for your contributions in the chat tonight. And
because you've always been here and you missed this one, but we still love you.
Oh yeah, no, you're welcome back anytime it's convenient for you. And other than that, next week will be, of course, more 1923 DS9, and maybe we'll throw something else. I'm Petey York of the Ryder Brothers. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. This has been a presentation of the Ryder Brothers Tuesday Night Live Show. The Ryder Brothers, restoring respect into discourse.